Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries with Setting Yourself Free podcast, where we want you to be, do, and have all that God created you to be. And I am excited to tell you that I have the one and only Dr. Spurrill here, who is amazing out of, I want to say, Minnesota.
Minnesota, yes.
Minnesota. Yes.
Yes.
And I am thrilled that he is going to be sharing with us some things that are right on the horizon right now and what individuals are feeling like. But the first thing you need to do, honestly, is you need to go to officialsynapse.com and do that discovery call. It's free. You can talk to him about anything that's going on in your world from mind, body, spirit, you name it. He's there to support you. So it's free. Did I say free? Three times free, and it is 30 minutes at officialsynapse.com. And also, one other thing, October 27th through the 30th, Paradise, Montana, Women's Retreat. You want to get away from all of the static that's going on in our world right now. Come to Montana for the Women's Retreat, October 27th through the 30th. You just go to katiehuff.com and fill out the form, katy-huff.com, fill out the form. One more time, katy-huff.com, fill out the form. Thank you, Dr. Spurrill, for everything that you do. You are one of my faves. Obviously, you're keeping me healthy and going, and I appreciate you so much with just your support individually and just your willingness and your heart to serve everyone. So thank you so much for being here, and God bless you.
Thank you. And yeah, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So we've been talking about a couple different scenarios, and we were talking just recently about how the atmosphere is full of stress these days,
Yeah.
more so than most other days, and how it is affecting so many of individuals, families, everything that's going on.
Yeah, I have a lot of patients coming in right now, and they're very, very concerned about the election coming up. They're very, very concerned about this season. I've had talks with family members, and it can get a little heated. And these are family members that can have the conversation. You know, some family members you just can't talk politics with them, and if you disagree, that type of thing. And what one of my family members who I love very much said was, "Are you prepared to lose family members if Trump wins?" And
Wow.
I like they said that to me, and
Wow.
I walked through that, and I have had a lot of patients expressing the same thing, and a lot of people are very, very worried. People are stressed out if they're seeing President Trump as their president. They're stressed out that he's not going to win, and our life as we know it's going to be changed. And they're right. And the people who are very much opposed to Trump are saying if he gets in, my life's never going to be the same. And they're right. And so I try and help people walk through this in multiple ways because the reality is life is going to change. When President Trump says this is the most important election in our history up until this point, he's not wrong. And so there's a lot of things in play here. But number one, God is orchestrating this entire thing.
Yes.
So the people who have absolutely no stress with it, which I put myself in that category because when my family member says, "Are you prepared to lose family members?" I I have to just do one thing. I'd say no. I'm not going to lose family members over this from my perspective. Now that's
Mhm.
up to them, but I surrender the whole thing, and I will bite my tongue when it comes to certain things around that. What I kept saying was just give it time, just give it
Mhm.
time, and the reason is because as this plays out, there will be a healing that occurs. And the reason why I know that is because of the last 6 to 8 years, how God has equipped certain people to actually step up and start to deliver something that's going to usher in a new era, a new
Mhm.
change. And I listened to prophets like Kim Clement
Oh, yeah.
early on because I didn't understand how Trump became president in 2016. He said everything wrong. He did everything wrong. And yet he came in and just had this miraculous kind of event. And then I saw them attack him, and I saw everything kind of unfold. So I was awake to some things, not everything.
Right.
And so a certain percentage of our population is now awake to that. But what it did for me was I saw Kim Clement's prophecies play out, and one by one, impeach. They will try to impeach him. Kim Clement called that out. He got the two impeachments. He called out how there would be two presidents, and the one that is of two minds. How can he stand before the people? And that's Biden and his dementia. So as he was giving his prophecies, they were coming true. I saw them. He had one prophecy that said he called Trump his David. And my David is here to take down the brothers of Goliath, the Goliath of socialism, the Goliath of secularism, the Goliath of debt. And they'll be shocked at how he takes down the giants. And there's one point he gave us little benchmarks. He said, when my David goes into North Korea to visit that tiny little man, something along those lines, is a sign of the beginning of the season that I'm going to rise him up, my David. So that's basically God telling us that he's working, and that's the start. He also said when a member of the Kennedy family joins the Republican Party is a sign of the season I'm actively working in. That's the other goalpost, if you will, and
Right.
that happened too recently. He's been giving it to us this whole time. So I know definitively God's in control. And I've had many experiences through this process where I'm seeing even myself and other people that we're working with in the movement to make America better again. We're getting these little God nudges. I shouldn't call them little because every God nudge is a blessing, but it's an organization that you can't explain because it's not an individual person who's doing it. It's not Trump. It's not General Flynn. It's not Clay Clark. It's the masses of people. Patrick Byrne, all these different people that have all these different stuff that are coming at us, and we're being organized to have a new system. So Kim Clement's prophecy, as it plays out, basically says that during the Christmas season, the truth will finally come out. It'll be so obvious, even the young people will see it, and they will know you can have safe and fair elections moving forward. And then he talks about a restoration phase, the likes of which the world has never seen before,
Mm,
spiritual and financial blessings, the likes of which the world has never seen before. So
mm,
people are turning to God and going to be turning to God. And so when I have family members who say, are you prepared to lose family members? My answer is no. I love you. And let's just wait and see what happens.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's such a sense of anxiety throughout. I mean, I'm
Yes.
sensing that. I was at a meeting last night, and it was for one of our Supreme Court judges, and I was just like listening, and it actually was very, educational and inspiring and encouraging. But I could sense just how we are maneuvering right now in conversations with neighbors, or the signage that you might put outside your house, or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how is that going to, like you're saying, might lose family, you might lose neighbors or friends. But I think in general, most people will know where you stand for who you are if you're walking out what you're called to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really encourage people to do at this point, most people are locked into what they're going to be doing or saying. If they're not, you can just say, "Do you have any questions?" And if they don't, then you're good. Just leave it alone. At this point, we need to just let people know it'll be okay. Because I'm just going to say this. There's going to be millions of people who are shocked at when God reveals what's been hidden from the people, which is going to happen over the next couple years. There's going to be revelation after revelation,
Mhm.
and people who thought they were on the right side of things are going to be surprised at what God reveals, what and the changes. Our healthcare system, our judicial system, our schooling system, they're all about to be changed. Our financial system, we're entering a new world. Change can be hard for a lot of people, but we need to just let people know it'll be okay. It's not worth losing friendships over. We have to unite. And
Right.
again, Kim Clement's prophecy says, halfway through my David's second term, during the restoration phase, there'll be a woman. At first, they don't like her, but then they come to love her, who's part of bringing the country back together. So that's a restoration phase, and that's unity. So we
Right.
need to not be fighting per se. We need to fight for our country. That's very important right now, but not with our neighbors. If they're locked in, don't argue with them, basically at this point. But if they're undecided, like I had a conversation with someone and they were very much a Trump hater. And I said, that doesn't resonate with me. So why? I just asked the question, why is he a Trump hater? They started throwing stuff out there and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, are you okay if I um, uh, talk to you a little bit about what you just said? Because that's not true. That's not what he said. And so I said, we can spend time here, but if you're going to say stuff like that, are you okay if I bring up the actual video and show you what he said? And this person said yes. So then all it took was two videos because they had, I'm going to call them CNN talking points in their
Right.
head.
Right.
And I showed them the video and they were uh, surprised. And I think what ended up happening was this person basically went from uh, saying I'm going to cancel out your vote to I don't know if I'm going to vote now because they just went to the point of I'm going to vote for Harris. Now it's like I may not vote now. I just can't vote for Trump. Well, that's still something that is important. And I said it doesn't matter. We're still going to come together and we're going to work together. We have to afterwards. It doesn't matter what happens. Just let them know that. And so as we start going through the next 2 months as the truth is revealed, it'll get easier, I'm going to say, but we still need to lead with grace. I personally believe that President Trump is going to win. A lot of things are going to be revealed, and we will need to be helping all these people who are just living in trauma because they're shocked, number one, and then um, they truly are. They're not. A lot of these people are not grounded in a faith that
Right.
allows them to receive this level of bad news. So we have to be there for them to help them basically.
Exactly. So, what kind of steps would you encourage uh, we, as obviously believers and believing exactly what you said in regards to the election, into encouraging other people? What kind of like the anxieties and where do they go? What do they do? Who do they reach out to? Are they really in tune with what their body is doing? Because obviously,
Right.
dis-ease is dis-ease. And so this time of anxiety and anxiousness and even somewhat depression and you know
Yeah.
losing their minds.
So this is a great question because this is actually the answer of how we're going to heal from all this trauma. And the first step is awareness that you're actually having these issues. And then everyone needs to know that we are mental, chemical, physical, and spiritual beings. And so, yes, you can work on the mental, chemical, and physical. And I'll just run through that really quickly. So if you're sleeping and you sleep deeply, you can restore from anxious and depression. So getting good, deep, restorative sleep. Chemically, we want to make sure our diet and all the things we have control are doing well. All these great interviews with Tucker Carlson and Dr. Means and these doctors talking about how our food supply is not right, and RFK saying, I'm going to go clean up the FDA. These are amazing things we've been actually talking about in my world for the last 25 years. So keep your diet clean. Pay attention to what you're putting in your body and your mouth. Physically get up and move. So those are all the basics that are still going to help you. Watch for your cravings because when we're stressed, we crave salt and sugar. So try to mitigate that so you're not actively always going after the salt and sugar, especially the processed food. The real secret of moving through this and moving forward is the spiritual component.
Right.
Now, the spiritual component is going to be at this point, we can say connect with God, make sure you know God. That's easy to say, hard to do sometimes because we
Mhm.
get our life is distracted. But what I'm saying, what I've been asked to do myself within the medical field is to help people, and within the church setting is to help people find their identity. And this is the problem. People don't know who they are under Christ. People don't know their God-given identity.
Mm.
And so I'll give you an example. People look at me and they call me everywhere I go, in the clinic, and even parts of my own family call me Dr. Troy too. So my grandchildren call me Dr. Tay because one of them couldn't say Dr. Troy when he was little, so they say just call him Dr. T. And so he couldn't say T, he said Tay. So then everyone started calling me Dr. Tay. A lot of my
Which is better
grandkids.
than Mr. T,
Yes, exactly.
because you're a
So
lot better than that.
yes, well, we'll see.
I know.
Um, so when it came to just me and my life, a lot of people know me as Dr. Troy, but that's not my identity. That's a false identity. Because if I were in an accident and I lose the ability to be Dr. Troy, then what happens? I enter into depression
Hmm.
or anxiety because I go through this conversation of what am I going to do with my life right now? And so that's a completely different problem. But if my identity is I am a liberator for Christ, meaning I just help people get out of bondage. If the bondage happens to be in their health care issues, then great. I help them problem solve, get out of it. But if their problem happens to be a flat tire at the side of the road, I help them with that flat tire. I don't have to be Dr. Troy to help them with that flat tire. I
Right.
can still be a liberator for Christ. God will create that path or that opportunity for me to be my identity. So that's the difference. We operate in this world under false identities. And when you do, and you define yourself by that, then that's where anxiety and depression come from a spiritual root.
Mm, right.
So identifying who you are, what gift did God give you? What is it that God wants you to know about you in this time, in this season? Answering that question will help you because you're going to have an aha, a realization that you're putting too much mental pressure on yourself because of the false identity you think you have. And so
Mm,
that'll help you navigate through this season. Because for me, being a liberator for Christ, I help people get out of bondage. I very much am a healthcare practitioner who is helping them with their blood work and all this other stuff. But I would share Kim Clan's prophecies
mm,
to my patients. Why? Nothing to do with healthcare, but it liberates them from the bondage of fear. It
right.
gives them hope that God's in control, and I can do that regardless of where I am. It didn't matter what, if I was a mechanic at this point, if I lost my clinic, it was a mechanic, I'd still be talking about Kim Clement prophecies
Right.
because it's liberating them from the bondage that they're in, the trap that they're in, the cell that they're in. So that's what I encourage people to do. Yes, work on the mental, chemical, and physical stuff, reduce inflammation, reduce the sugar and salt intake, but most importantly, find out what your identity is under Christ, and you will be able to walk through this. Not only that, God will use you to actually help others because when we are operating out of our spiritual gifts, then we actually get to experience the fruit of the spirit. It's called love, joy, discipline. All these things start to just sneak in there, and you all of a sudden find yourself being asked to do all kinds of things for people at different times that bring you life.
Mm,
And it's a different scenario. In the middle of a war,
mhm.
you feel like you are the most blessed person on the planet.
Yes. Yes. And I can even give you an example. So obviously there's a lot of volunteers out there that are knocking on doors. And the other day, I actually had a young girl come to the door and she was out of Washington, which totally blew me away because she was talking about the CI one, excuse me, 128, and she was talking about how she's from Washington, and Washington's a pretty extreme liberal state, obviously. And so here
Yes,
she
yeah.
is in Lolo, Montana, and talking to me, and had just been at one of the neighbors' house, and she was almost in tears. And I said, "Are you okay?" You talk about being ready and prepared to be able to speak truth and life into people, and this young gal is there just doing hard work. It's hard work going and knocking on doors from Washington. And she said that one of our neighbors, who lives down the street a couple blocks, and he was yelled at her. And I said to her, "Well, honey, just remember this isn't about you, and broken people are broke." and
Yep.
and that he's a broken guy on a good day, let alone you knocking on his door. So don't take it
Yep.
personal.
Yes.
And literally was able to just pray with her and encourage her, telling her that she's doing the right thing and that God's got her in the palm of her hand. And she would start to cry, and I was hugging her and just wanted her to know that she's a child of God that loves her and
Yep.
is proud of her and is with her everywhere she goes. And then, of course, I had to say, now be prepared for here, prepared for there, because, of
Yep.
course, the neighborhood.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but just to your point, when we start talking to them about the love of Christ and he has a plan and it's good and it's always right on time, and to try really hard not to take things personally, because
Yep.
people are stirred up big time.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. The scripture even tells us to dust ourselves off and get and keep going. It's the same principle here. So we're getting close. We're literally a month away from the election, and I also want to say this just for some people. It doesn't matter what this next 4 to 6 weeks or 8 weeks looks like. I want people to know that there could be different scenarios because when we're looking at how things are playing out and we're looking at how God has given us prophecies from Kim Clement and some other prophets that I would say are potentially accurate. There's a lot of false prophets out there, but
Right.
the reality is um, the really we could end up. Kim Clement said that during the Christmas season, the truth will come out and be so obviously the young people will see that. And so that could mean that we don't know who our president is the next day after the elections in November at all. And it could take some time for them to discern through that. It also could mean that Trump becomes president and he releases information about the previous elections. And so there's all I know is God said through his prophet that the truth will finally come out, and then people will know moving forward we can have safe fair elections. And he also said during my David's second term.
Right.
So and so those two statements are really important statements for people to remember that God's still in control, and whatever happens, just know that it will be worked out. So just have that faith.
Yes.
And all that's going to do when you have that faith and when everything looks so dire and it works out, just think about how much that just pulls you in towards God. And
Amen.
that's what I absolutely love because that's what God does.
Yes.
He allows us to go through the suffering and then he says, just watch what I'm going to do. Just watch this.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting. And he never leaves
It
us or
is.
forsakes us. And in the end, God wins.
Yes. Yep. We win. Yep. So that's why I just continue to lean into God, uh, get into to your scripture and start asking the questions about what is it that you want me to know here, Lord, and then just wait for that answer
Right.
and watch, and God will find a way to communicate with you because sometimes we get so blocked up with life, so inflamed with our life, if you will, that we don't hear God's voice very well. We can actually block that. So then God will use other people to say something, to unlock that, to unblock that. God will use experiences. Look for God in all those experiences when you're asking a question. When you ask the question, what do you want me to know? Just watch, and you will be shocked at how God will actually answer it in different ways. But you have to see it, you have to look for it.
Right. So that's another great question that I want to ask you, because I'm sure you have your perception of where you would direct someone to start that may not know even where to start in the scriptures. I mean, I know a lot of people, Dr. Spurrill, that will say, well, I'm going to start with Genesis. And I'm like, no, please start with the Gospel of John. with the
Yes.
love is what I say. But some of my favorites is obviously Philippians with I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and be not anxious. I mean, Philippians for me speaks to my heart and soul. But what would you suggest?
Um, wow, that's a great question. So I know the first thing off the top of my head is just I want everyone to read the whole whole Bible, but
Right.
um it depends where you're at with your journey because different people need to see different things. I happen to think we're in a season where it's very, very similar to Moses and the Israelites being freed. So
Right,
that whole story, Old Testament, is very important because
right.
there's a lot of learning there that we can have because we don't want to repeat
Mm,
what happened there. There's a lot of grumbling in the 40 years, and so that we have a way to actually navigate this, but we are being liberated from a different form of slavery, if you will, a different form of bondage is a better way of saying it. And
right.
so I really want people to read that with new eyes as far as what we're going through. Also, read about Cyrus because Cyrus and what he was doing
Mm,
back in his time is very similar to what President Trump is doing and
yes,
going through right
yes,
now. So there's so
exactly.
much there as well.
I remember one of the prophets saying that President Trump is is God's Cyrus.
Yeah. Well, when you actually read it, you're like, holy smokes, this is like right now. And
Yeah,
so what does that do? That just builds belief.
exactly.
And then also things along the lines of uh, just anything that Jesus said.
Mm,
So Matthew, Mark, Luke, all of the ones where Jesus was actually speaking and giving wisdom, I think is very, very important right now. But we're in a season of the prophetic, and God tells us to follow and watch His prophets,
yes.
and so that is I tend to want to go towards those sections as well. So
Mm,
I've been doing a lot of Old uh, Testament studying Ezekiel and different parts of the Old Testament uh, to to actually bring to life the New Testament and what we're going through right now. So
mm,
that's been a part of it. Uh, yeah, I also think we're in a season of transition. So the whole book of Acts is something that I like to go to. And then there's just right now there's the anything David wrote, again, Old Testament, because this is a season of David. All of a sudden we're seeing Psalms and we're seeing like the struggle and the suffering and the promises. They're all there. So yeah, anything in around David as well. I that he wrote, and I want to spend just 2 minutes before we finish off here
yeah,
talking about David because God equipped David to handle Goliath. In the prophecy, they bring up David and Goliath. So David was a young boy in the fields, tending to the flock, and he was bored. So what did he do? He wrote poetry and he practiced with a slingshot. God was equipping him. For years, he got really good at writing poetry. Why is that important? Because the poetry became a lot of the Old Testament when he was king. He wrote that. And so he developed his relationship because he was out there bored, talking to God, practicing with a slingshot. Why was the slingshot important? He could hit a branch from 100 yards away. So when he went and got face to face with Goliath, Saul said, "We need to put this armor on you," and he said, "No." Why? Because David knew his identity.
yes,
He knew this is not me, and he had a slingshot. He was so confident because he had a slingshot. Why? Because he's taken on a tiger, he's taken on a bear, he can hit a branch from 100 yards away. He knew he had Goliath. The only mistake David made was he brought more than one stone. And it wasn't really a mistake.
right,
That's just being prepared. But he didn't need it.
right,
So just like God equipped David, God has equipped all of us to do to do what we're meant to do. But you have to understand who you are instead of taking the armor of Saul that's not going to fit you and make you all clumsy. Saul tried to make him fight the way he thought the fight should be done. And that's what I say to a lot of Christians who do not support Trump because they say he's not, he's not a Christian man. God equipped him to handle the people and take down the brothers of Goliath the way he does it.
right,
He is the thing you need to know about Trump is he is authentic.
right,
This is he's the same. Yes, he may be a jerk in some places in some areas, but he's the same jerk and he's fighting for our liberation in our country.
right,
And so that's the same person. He's very consistent because that's how God made him, and that's who God is using to take down the brothers of Goliath. Someone who's super nice, even myself, there's no way I could do anything close to what Trump is doing. I would be just, I'd be taken out with just people disagreeing with me and stuff. It's
Right,
just like,
right,
you know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
So he was made this way. So I would just want people to lean in
Yes.
to the scripture that talks about the Old Testament too. I've been in more Old Testament than I ever have in these days and times because it explains what we're going through.
Right. Right. And history does repeat itself.
Yeah.
And here we
Yeah.
are.
Yes, and God gave us these lessons to learn from. So I don't want us Christians to be grumbling through for 40 years walking along. We will have an expedited course this time. So,
Yes. And amen. Well,
yes,
awesome. Well, I think that is just amazing. All that we've covered today. Obviously, there's good nuggets here. And so, again, go to officialsynapse.com, get that discovery appointment. It's amazing. It'll help you change your trajectory of your health and your life. Believe me, I'm a walking, talking example of that. And again, don't forget, October 27th through the 30th, Women's Retreat in Paradise, Montana. katy-huff.com, fill out the form, and we'll get you set up. So thank you, Dr. Spurrill, for your heart, your wisdom, your knowledge, your encouragement. You're always such a breath of fresh air, and I just really appreciate you and all that you do for the people that are listening. So God bless you.
absolutely. And thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and I am coming to you today to encourage you to put 2024 as your best year ever. And how are you going to do that? By putting your health and healing as your number one priority. How do you do that? You go to officialsynapse.com and you go to where it says free consult, free discovery call. It's free. This people at Synapse are amazing. They're going to get you on the road to health and healing in 2024. And so again, it's free. Go to officialsynapse.com and click on that free discovery call and make 2024 your best year ever. God bless you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Katie Huff with Katie Huff Ministries, and this is Bella Jean, and we're coming to you today to talk to you about setting yourself free by having first a great night's sleep. How's that going to happen? By using My Pillow. My Pillow has incredible products. Bella Jean even has her own dog bed and loves it. She sleeps well at night, so do we. Because we also have the topper, we have the pillows, we've used the sheets, we have the towels, and we even have the slippers. So we are a family that loves My Pillow as much as my Bella Jean, and I'm hoping that your dog will love it as much as ours, and that you'll go to mypillow.com/unmasked. Again, that's mypillow.com/unmasked, and you'll get incredible discounts for your family to be setting themselves free to having a great night's sleep and having an amazing holiday season with My Pillow products. Thank you.